Welcome back, everybody, to our weekly energy update for empaths and energetically sensitives. My name is Jona Bryndis, and I thought I'd celebrate lighter energies here with a red shirt, you know, coming out of the red zone. And perhaps maybe next week I'll be able to wear a green shirt. That would be very unusual for me, but it looks like we're heading towards lighter times. Welcome. Thank you for being here with me. You know, it's live. You can ask questions, so please take advantage of this. And while you guys are all still logging on, let us know where you're watching from, what your profession is maybe, you know, and what your interests are. And please comment or ask direct questions. All right, my name is Jona Bryndis, and I'm airing from transCODES, energy healing and energy coaching here in Colorado. Indoors, still not warm enough to go back into my outside office, but we're looking at really positive signs. All right, and this is something that I want to discuss with you today, waiting for signs. How we can support our inner healing without externalizing our power. So stepping back into our own source of power and what all that entails. All right. So currently we are still somewhat in an energetic squeeze, as I want to call this. A lot of you report that there's this really strong inner, some have it more vertical and some have it more horizontal. Here, sort of in that diaphragm area, feeling squeezed and feeling divided within. I've just published an article called Healing the Great Divide Within, addressing the aspects of masculine and feminine energies within and how they contribute to fragmentation if they're imbalanced. And I've mentioned this many times before, but I do want to really point this out for you guys right now, that this is the time here. All April is really about this. And if you watch the energy forecast for April, I talked about the first half of April being under the effects of the negative expression of masculine and feminine energies. So in this article, I describe, you know, how you can connect with both of these parts of you, regardless of your gender, and how you can put them to work for you. There's an innate connection between manifestation and masculine and feminine energies within, or the balance thereof, okay? And if there's an imbalance, or if we are, say, through karmic or inner child aspects, if we are unable to connect with some of these aspects of us, then, or some of these energies within us, then this can produce a major block. And this is kind of like part of this energetic squeeze that a lot of you are experiencing right now, this still stand, this stagnation, all right? It's because you're not fully aware of the things that are holding you back. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about here today, as far as like what energetically sensitives are experiencing right now and what are they, or what can they expect for the next week, has to do with this. We need to step into our own source of power. And our own source of power really can only be found where we can embrace and love and work with both of these dualities within. Otherwise, and this is here what we've been dealing with primarily this last week, and we will continue to work with this for the next week. We're dealing with untruths, we're dealing with incongruences, we're dealing with things that are, I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like we're keeping this like a secret from ourselves. There are parts of us that we can't fully love, and so we're excluding them, we're locking them up in the basement. And many of you who've done shadow work before, or have been on this path of self-healing for a while, know that any part of you that you cannot fully embrace, that you cannot fully love, contributes to, you know, this inner schism, this inner fragmentation, and can lead to shadow expressions, can lead to wounds and traumas, but more importantly, even if it's not this extreme, it can lead to, you know, you're not fully in possession or not fully able to own your own energy. And so the masculine and feminine aspect, but also the part in us that we cannot fully embrace, that we cannot fully love, is the theme for the next week. And you know, just so you understand this, when I talk about the great divide within, you know, it's something that is natural to all of us here, you know, consisting of these physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energies. And that is that there are parts of us that we truly appreciate, parts of us that we are really embrace, you know, like say maybe our spirituality, but we cannot fully embrace our emotions, or we cannot fully embrace our body, or we have difficulties with this recurring negative inner voice. All right, so I want you to understand that this is not just relating to this left and right, masculine and feminine duality in us, but also the duality that we have as energetic beings in a 3D body, you know, so the physical limitation. And so many of us are running into these limiting beliefs right now, or have been. Okay, so the limiting belief that there are certain things that we cannot do unless da 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 happens, or unless I get da da da. So this unconsciously produces a little something like what we call an externalization of our power. So we're waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for signs, and this is something I want to pick up on here. I've integrated that into the crypto update that is coming right after the collective update here. Signs, SYGNS, for me stands for stand your own ground and never succumb to fear. Never succumb. So in order to feel this empowerment, okay, through your own source of power, you have to be able to stand your ground, and you can't stand your ground if you've got all these skeletons in your closets, or if you have, you know, these parts of you that you've locked away. So this is what creates one of the most common energetic imbalances or schisms in people, and shows in energy work as these almost like satellite energies that people have, or things that they're shoving away. And this is, I've mentioned this many times before, something that makes you very susceptible to outer energies, and it makes you susceptible to moving off your center. And so anyone who has a little bit of experience with inner visioning and with inner guidance seeking knows that it's very easy to fall into the trap of your mind, say, of your ego mind, you know, like you meditate and you try to connect within, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get wrapped up in all these stories, you get wrapped up in all these visuals, for some people actually, you know, that produce like this most beautiful scenario for you, and you get trapped there. So these ego traps, which, by the way, I've addressed in another article that I published yesterday called The 4 Hacks of Overcoming Inner Visioning. You know, they have a lot to do with how well you are unified within, how well you know thyself. And if you don't know, or if you don't want to know these parts in you, okay, that you cannot fully love about yourself, then you become very susceptible to inner and outer manipulation, and also overpowerment. Okay, so coming back to the place of you know, how to step into your own source of power, it has a lot to do with accepting all parts in you. And this was one of the things that I've observed last week. Okay, a lot of people had actually something that as energy workers we call and you know, like a healing response. They had a lot of releases, and this is something that we want people to experience consciously. But when we do this all on our own and we encounter things such as anger, so a lot of people had releases of anger last week, and it can lead to this belief that we're not spiritual, or we're not supposed to be angry, that this is not good. But from an energetic point of view, that is actually not true. So from an energetic point of view, anger has more power than fear, say, or pain or guilt. And so many of us have these fragments where we have a hard time accepting certain emotional or physical reactions within us, and we go into guilt cycles, or we go into self-bashing, and that then produces the low energy in us. So if you want to shift your energy out of this, know that you can. You just have to like really accept that there are situations or circumstances in which certain emotions come up for you. And it's important to really feel that all these emotions are part of you, whether your ego likes to identify with it or not, but they're all part of you. Emotions are really just emotions, guys. It's just like, you know, physical release symptoms, and I don't need to spell them out for you, but those are the things that we're trying to hide away from ourselves as well, but they're the most natural thing. You know, burping, for instance, or yawning, or, you know, all the other physical releases that we have. You know, they're a very important part of our own self-regulatory and self-healing system. And if we try to suppress this or control this, and for most of us, we have been raised with these beliefs that certain expressions are not okay and certain expressions are okay. So anger for most of us is not okay. We begin to bash ourselves, we begin to doubt ourselves, and we go into guilt. So this is really one of the big lessons here to remember for next week. Any emotion is just an emotion, and you really need to be able to embrace all of them, and if it helps you, then reframe them as healing symptoms. Okay, when anger comes up for you, especially if you have been repressing anger a lot, it means that something needs to come forward. And so what is it that needs to come forward? That's something, you know, here as energy coach, having talked to energetically sensitives, empaths, and so forth, you know, I don't know, 10 hours a day for the last week, is for most of you linked into karmic family aspects, things that come out of how you were raised, the beliefs that you were raised with, but also, of course, some of the aspects that you have inherited from your family. And the inner child, or the reaction to this when you were a child. And this is usually where this fragmentation, be it masculine, feminine energies, or be it repressed emotions, where that originated for most of us. So if you really want to work with this, because the energies that are coming in here in this next week are actually very, very releasing. Okay, there may be a few surprises. There may be still a lot of intensity here on the outer, sort of more collective stage of things. But internally, if you can embrace these parts of you as like, yes, I need to express that, and the expression of that is more important than the repression of that. That then puts you into a very powerful place, and it will help you to deal with these main subjects that are actually right now knocking on our door, and that is liberating ourselves from, you know, these old, really old beliefs or limitations that we have adopted. Now, the reason why we externalize our energies as a result of that is also part of the conditioning. But that's more something that happened through the environment that we grew up in, okay? So believing that you don't have the power, believing that you cannot heal yourself, believing that you can only get salvation through an external energy or, you know, some kind of authority or the government for that matter, is part of our collective task here for all year. And in April now, towards the second half of April, this is coming forward for all of us very, very strongly. So you want to ride this wave by really going in and doing what I have been suggesting all along, but consciously allowing all your emotions to come forward. Because if you hold on to the past and what these limiting beliefs in the past, where they got you, you're going to get the exact same results. And I'm not even sure if I'm online here and not seeing anybody, but if you want to send me a brief hello and where you're from, then I know that I'm actually airing. Yes. Okay, wonderful. Okay, I see you now. Awesome. So the overall time period that is coming to an end, and I've mentioned this last week, is this, especially for those of us here who've been around for a while in the self-healing, spiritual, esoteric, new age kind of scene, is this this wounded warrior, the wounded healer in us. Okay, this is on a deeper spiritual level the part in us that really needs to step forward now, that needs to come out of the woodwork, as I called it a few years back. You know, this is really the part now that if you are feeling beaten down, if you are feeling like you're stagnating, if you are feeling frustrated with not really moving forward, then this is the part from an energetic and spiritual level that you are looking at as the wounded warrior, the beaten down warrior, the wounded healer in you. And it isn't a coincidence that this year I have never received that many requests for energy healer trainings than this year. Because this is the year where you can really step out of this and stop beating yourself up for not being healed enough or whatever in order to heal other people if you feel the calling forward. This is the year where you guys need to step into your vocation, into your calling. All right. And even if it's not healing or anything related to healing, the fact that you are interested in these spiritual things and energetic things shows you that you have a resonance with the deeper energetic aspects of that. And this can be translated into any profession, really. You know, this isn't limited to calling yourself an energy healer. No, this can be transposed into accounting, even into teaching. I've started writing a book now about how to teach our children the basics of energy work. If you're an educator, you know, this is for me, you know, looking into my visions, one of the largest or biggest demand here in the future is having educators who are able to integrate the basics of energy work and the basics of understanding that we're energetic beings that have this 3D experience to our younger generations. But also, of course, you know, the typical professions where, you know, people come to seek mentoring or come to seek guidance, such as counseling or life coaching. You know, this is the group of new generation energy workers that I have written about in the past. And this has nothing to do with woo-woo, has nothing to do with Reiki or any kind of school. This has to do with really owning your own energetic sensitivity. And transCODES just so happens to be specialized on this. We've been doing this for 10 years. And the way we do this is very unique, namely through actually working with people's energies live. All right, this is not a weekend course. This is not the learning or multiple choice course. No, you do this with us for 5 months in these energy sessions, and you can learn from hands-on experience, from your own experience. Now, we also offer weekend courses, but those are more for yourself and to learn about your energy more. Like we have this weekend, the energetic visioning intensive. You know, it's really good for those of you who are already having these experiences like astral traveling or outer body experiences, and you can learn a lot of really fundamental things there that will help you to keep yourself safe, because we don't actually recommend people to spend too much time with out of body and astral traveling, because the chances that your ego is leading you astray is way too big. So we teach you ways to do this without running into danger of falling into your ego traps. So the specialness that is behind a lot of that energy healer type of thing is something that you know this about me. I regularly take this down, and I also get a lot of criticism for this. But this is what's needed, guys, for energetic awareness to become mainstream. All this, you know, like aliens here and other star systems and starseed and all that, guys, this is nothing but specialness, and it's your ego leading you astray. It's just another variation of externalizing your powers. All right, we all have this divine energy flowing through us, whether we believe in God or not, has nothing to do with this. And if you want to step into the source of power, you got to know a few of these trajectories. You need to know the terminology, and you need to understand what you're composed of. So this is really the foundation here of this modern spiritualism that I'm suggesting. And yes, if I would talk about Pleiadians or, you know, other, it's so hard for me to say these things without being judgmental, and you have to forgive me for this, because I grew up with all this specialness and esotericism, but it's really important to understand that this has no place here for the future of truly liberating ourselves from the oppression of you know, spiritual fanatism, cults, and also, you know, just this isolated self-beat up. Okay, we've got to grow out of this. All right. So forgive me for this. So when I talk about looking for signs, you know, then it's my sarcasm here, because, you know, people get so wrapped up in signs, you know, like, oh, you know, I saw this and this today, and I bet that means, you know, I got to do this and this. You know, I don't know. You know, the only place or the only entity or the only authority that can tell you whether something is the right decision for you or not is your true self, and that you find in your heart. So you got to learn how to reduce the noise of all this mental, emotional beat up, the physical strains that you're experiencing, or the resistances that you're experiencing, and your specialness. If you strip all that from you, then you'll get very straight answers and very clear guidance, guys. And this is really what I want to transport to you this week, namely, move back into your truth. Stop hiding truth from yourself or others, okay? For some of us, it started with us having been shut down at an early stage. You know, for others, you know, it has it developed out of our specialness, you know, trying to be somebody that we're not, you know. And of course, underneath all of this is the fear of not belonging, the fear of not being loved. So stop, you know, running in circles and chasing, you know, the dream of enlightenment or ascension, and move into your center and find yourself and find your backbone again and stand your ground. Stand your ground and never succumb to your fear. Those are, you know, or this is the resonance that you need to feel within yourself. No matter how many times the warrior in you has been beaten down, no matter how many times the healer in you has been embarrassed or made fun of. Stand up and move into who you truly are. Stop identifying with your ego. Become real. All right, and this is a lot of talking, and you guys are like awfully quiet today, so I'm just going to move on to the forecast for next week and the energy tips for as good as I can, you know, on a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic level. The chakras affected next week will be primarily our first. That's our root chakra. Yes, still, that's why we're still dealing with karmic and inner child stuff, and many of you dealing with repressed emotions from childhood. The third and fourth chakra, and to be more precise, actually with the barrier between the third and fourth. On a physical level, that's the diaphragm and everything that is sort of like right here underneath your rib cage. This is where the blockage between the third and fourth chakra is located. And what this means is that the things that I just talked about, you know, the things our ego identifies with, all right, that's located in our third chakra. This is also the seat of our power, but if it is contaminated by specialness or contaminated by externalizing our power, then the guidance that can come through from connecting with our third chakra is faulty, is not true. All right, so the squeeze that you're experiencing, be it, you know, this way or that way, has a lot to do with you actually being able to overcome this barrier between your third and your fourth chakra here this next week. And then we have the overall squeeze, and that is the sixth chakra that is affected as well, which I think this is here the last week where we energetically sensitives have these really strong energetic sensations. That has to do with our third eye activity and some of the collective intensities that are still going on. And so we will have to ask ourselves, especially on the on the emotional level, we have to ask ourselves, you know, if these visions or if these ideas, if these things that we see for ourselves or the guidance that we receive, if this is fear-based or if this is vision-based, is this making, you know, me special, or is this making me become real? Yes, so we're moving into a much more earthy time right now. And this is also why many of you will feel that there's earth changes coming forward now that are representing exactly that. I forgot to mention this last week, actually. You know, there's these really big things happening in the world right now, such as the rift in Africa, you know, and a lot of changing weather patterns. We, of course, we all know about the how minute temperature differences can create, you know, the melting of the glaciers. But what most of us forget is how complex this ecosystem on this planet really is. And so, you know, a drop or an increase in overall temperature does not just affect the glaciers. It affects, of course, the water on our planet, but also the winds and all that. So for next week, I'm actually expecting quite a bit of extreme weather, guys. Extreme. All right. Earthquakes are as well a result of this squeeze in the Earth's crust, all as a result of these polarities, you know, clashing and trying to release those energies that have been repressed, that have been bottled up like in a pressure cooker. All right, so physically, this will show in increased issues with spine and back issues. Many of you have already reported this. I've seen this in almost every session here the last week. Lower back issues, guys. Everything, you know, where sort of your vertebrae are involved and your joints, but mostly your vertebrae right now, herniated discs and so forth. Will become a problem here, or can become a problem next week. Also, still the possibility of some of the neurological connection, the signal processing, you know, like strokes and nervous breakdowns and stuff like that can still happen this following week. But for the most part, I'm actually more seeing people being sort of in this this inner squeeze, sort of almost like a mechanical squeeze. And this can produce issues with your shoulders, hips and knees and teeth. They're all connected through your spine. All right, so chiropractors and acupuncturists, they're going to have a good time here this next week or not. Lots of emergencies. The overall physical impact here still coming, you know, relating to masculine and feminine energies, is that you, in order to counteract that, need to go into you need to allow, you know, the both the masculine and the feminine. You need to know when it's time to relax, when it's time to go into sort of an energy preserving mode, and when it's time to act. So that to knowing the time to act, which is a masculine energy, is my physical energy tip for you for next week. You know, like there's time for relaxing, there's time for recuperating, and then there's time to act. And this will be supported here this next week. So don't forget to act. Don't forget to, you know, see this direction-oriented energy within you as a positive thing, all right? Because in the second half of April, this will be very, very supportive for us if we can really tune into the positive aspects of masculine and feminine energies. Emotionally, yes, still continue allowing releases, okay? This is very, very important on all levels, and also the things that you don't perhaps like so much about yourself. If you are in pain, then be in pain, but do it consciously and allow yourself to be in pain. If you feel like you need to grieve over the loss of something, then grieve, but do it consciously, all right? If you're angry about something, then be angry and set boundaries, all right? Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to move into that power. Let go of the repression. And if you catch yourself in your control, if you catch yourself in your specialness, so what? Understand that your specialness served a purpose in your childhood, and that the reason why you need the validation from the outside, why you need the attention, why you need all that from other people is just because that part in you is not fully healed. So instead of beating yourself up over that, you know, go in and ask that part in you what it needs to feel safe, what it needs to feel strong. So the core question for next week is, with everything that is coming in, is this making me stronger? This is what you want to focus on. And mentally, you know, this has a lot to do with your willingness to go into your truth, you know, and stop really feeding all these identifications with what you are not, or what does not represent your values, okay? So the backbone thing, you know, on a mental level reflects in you speaking your truth. Speak your truth, guys. No matter how painful this may be for, you know, say your partners or your co-workers or whatever, you need to let this out. And once more here, the importance of expressing your needs, your true needs. All right, don't say, oh, it's okay if it's not okay. Don't do these things, you know. Don't let your boundaries be violated, or enable that your boundaries are being violated by you, you know, not insisting on your truth. This is one of the biggest issues, guys, for your spiritual maturity, for your and emotional growth. All right, so if need to be, go into closure, you know, go get your no, you know, so that you can overcome your fear of rejection. This came in for a lot of people here this last week. And then, you know, on a relationship level, it's really, again, this enabling here that I want to pick up, you know, that a lot of times we are actually part of the problem, even if we project this onto the other, or if we think that's the other's fault, by not saying anything. So understand that the repression of your needs, the repression of your truth is also part of the problem, and this won't end. You won't ever be able to move out of this if you don't step up and stand your ground. It will lead to release, but it will also lead to healing. And then the week after next week, you know, can be a very, very beautiful time for relationships, for new love, for, you know, a cleared air, and a recommitment coming in. Now, spiritually, I've already explained the problem with externalization. So do not externalize your powers, all right? And that's something that you can do by asking yourself, is this based on my truth right now? Does this feel true to me? And if it doesn't, then have the the courage to say, no, I'm not doing this right now because this doesn't feel true to me. Or ask for more space, you know, and say, let me feel this out. I need to go within. I need to feel this out a bit more. And energetically, you know, one of the beautiful parts of this April energy is the renewal aspect of it. And here I want to pick up on what I said earlier, you know, coming out of the woodwork, following your vocation, following your calling. Renew your commitment to yourself, to your divine, to your true self, all right? Don't look back. Give it closure. We've all made compromises in the past for good reasons. But now is the time where you have to know what your priorities and what your values are. And if you stand up for them, you can manifest your true calling. All right? But you've got to come in. You've got to show up with a true commitment. Commit to yourself. All right, so that's for you know, the energy tips here for next week. Energy sessions, I mentioned this before. Before the energetic visioning weekend intensive here is coming up for us tomorrow night, and then of course we have more sessions every 2-3 days. Please check our transmission calendar. One important announcement here is the energy workshop that we have in Winter Park, Florida, 20th till 22nd of June for empaths and future healers, educators, anybody who feels attracted to learning how to deal with energetic sensitivity and how to move into self-mastery, and perhaps even how to help others doing that. Yes, and if you have questions regarding our energy healer program, training program, and certification program, it starts May 1st. Please go to transcodes.com to get more info. And those of you who want to know how these collective energies translate into the financial or crypto market, to be more precise, stay tuned. Here in 20 minutes. I'm going to be airing the crypto spiritual energy update. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for being here. We weren't really that interactive here today. But I hope you enjoyed this energy update, and I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.